They're planning your end. That was the entire message, handwritten in sharp, aggressive strokes on a piece of cheap hotel stationery. No signature. No return address. Just a flash drive inside the envelope, and that one sentence, "Don't go home." I should have tossed it in the trash. But something about it felt real, primal, like my gut was trying to scream over all the noise in my brain. So I locked my office door, sat down, and plugged the USB into my laptop. What I saw made me stop breathing. It was Emma, my wife. My beautiful, brilliant Emma. Sitting on the couch in the silk robe I bought her for our anniversary. Legs crossed. Holding a glass of wine like she was the Queen of damn England, and next to her, David, my best friend since college. The guy I started my company with. The man I trusted with millions of dollars and more secrets than I can count. They were laughing, joking, clinking glasses like villains in a bad movie. And then, as casually as someone orders a pizza, David said, "So, the plan's locked. Accident at the lake. No body. Insurance payout clears. We disappear." Emma smiled. Not just smiled, she grinned. Like she was proud of it. He'll never see it coming. He's still playing husband while we are writing his obituary. Every word was a bullet. Every smile, a stab. They were planning to kill me. Steal everything I built. And disappear together. Like some sick Bonnie and Clyde act. And the worst part? This wasn't new. The video was dated 2 years ago. They'd been planning this for 2 damn years. Right under my nose. While I was busting my ass running the business, keeping our house, putting Emma's name on everything to protect the family, they were planning my death like it was just a bump in their little love story. And let me tell you something. I snapped, but I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. No, I smiled. Because I realized something they hadn't. I grew up in chaos. I survived where others didn't. I know what it means to be hunted, and how to become the predator. They thought they were writing the final chapter of my story. But they just gave me a pen and asked me to write theirs instead. If you're into dark, twisted revenge stories, subscribe now, because this one? It gets real ugly, real fast. Back to the mess. I didn't go home that night. I didn't tell anyone where I went. I took a burner phone, grabbed some cash I had stashed from my old just-in-case days, and vanished. And oh goodbye. No explanations. Let them think whatever they wanted. I slept in my car for 2 nights. Ate gas station food. Showered at a 24-hour gym I still had a membership to. And the whole time, I was replaying that video in my head. Over and over. Studying every word. Every pause. Every detail in the background. Then I noticed something. A paper on the coffee table in the video. Zoomed in. Enhanced it with software my company used for security footage. It was a draft sale agreement. For my company. My signature was forged, but it looked perfect. That's when it clicked. They weren't just going to kill me. They were going to erase me, make it look like I sold the company, cashed out, and disappeared. No questions. No loose ends, except for one tiny problem. I wasn't dead. And now I knew everything. I made 3 calls that night. One to a guy who owed me a favor from a bad time in my past. Another to a digital forensics expert I once helped dodge a lawsuit. And the third, to a woman I hadn't spoken to in 8 years, who used to work for Homeland Security. All of them owed me. All of them said yes. You see, if Emma and David were going to treat my life like a game, I was about to change the rules. I didn't exist anymore. At least, not on paper. Within 72 hours, I erased myself from the grid. Closed accounts. Burned IDs. Used contacts that most people pray they'll never need. By the end of the week, I was officially a missing person. Emma played her part beautifully. The sobbing widow who couldn't understand why her husband never came home. She gave interviews, clutched photos of us, begged for answers. David was right there beside her, hand on her back, pretending to be the strong friend holding it all together. The world bought it. Hook, line, and sinker, but I wasn't dead. I was hiding in plain sight. My home was now a roach-infested motel off Route 9. Stale cigarette smoke in the curtains, buzzing neon sign outside the window, peeling wallpaper. Not exactly the kind of place I used to stay in. But the anonymity was perfect. Nobody looks twice at a broken man checking into a cheap motel with cash. I grew out a beard, changed my haircut, dyed it darker. Wore thrift store clothes. Walked with a limp I didn't have. To strangers, I wasn't me anymore. Just another ghost drifting through America's cracks, but every ghost needs eyes. That's where Marcus came in. He owed me. Back when he was running black hat scams, I helped him beat a federal charge by burying some evidence where nobody could find it. In return, he owed me a lifetime favor. Now, he paid up. He set up access to Emma and David's phones, laptops, cloud accounts. I could see everything: texts, emails, GPS pings. Every time Emma unlocked her phone, I saw the same screen. Every call David made, I had the recording within minutes. First, it was like drinking poison. Watching her text him good night. Hearing her laugh at his jokes. Seeing her wear the watch I bought her, only now calling it lucky because it reminded her of him. But after a while, the poison turned into fuel. Every smile, every kiss, every fake tear in front of the cameras, it all hardened me. Sharpened me. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to hunt. I started small. I rerouted one of David's wire transfers, just a fraction of a percent, barely noticeable, but enough that his books wouldn't balance. Then I deleted a few files from Emma's email. Important ones, bank statements, property deeds. Just enough to make her second-guess herself, and then I watched. The cracks started showing. David snapped at her in a restaurant because she forgot to bring a document he swore he sent. Emma accused him of losing money. He blamed her for drinking too much. Little things. But little things add up. 2 weeks later, I made my next move. Emma had her yoga class at 7 a.m., like clockwork. I slipped into the house while she was gone. Security cameras? Already looped thanks to Marcus. Locks. I still had my old keys. IT was strange, standing in my own home while they thought I was missing. My shoes were still by the door. My toothbrush was still in the cup by the sink. My wedding photo on the wall, Emma smiling, me looking like a fool who had no idea what was coming. I didn't touch anything. Not yet. I just left something behind. A note. 1 line, scrawled in the same handwriting from the letter I first received. I'm watching. I left it under her pillow. The next night, I sat in my motel room watching the feed from the hidden camera Marcus patched into their living room TV. Emma found the note. The color drained from her face. She froze, staring at it like it was a rattlesnake. Then she showed it to David. He laughed it off at first, said it was stress making her paranoid. But then she snapped, "No, David. This isn't paranoia. Someone was in this house." 4. The first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not grief. Not sadness. Fear. Good. Fear was only the beginning, because if she thought a little note was bad, she had no idea what was coming next. Emma stopped sleeping. I could tell from the camera feed. Dark circles under her eyes, pacing the house at 3 in the morning, pouring herself more wine than water. She checked the locks twice. Sometimes 3 times. And every time she lay in bed, she'd glance at the pillow where I left the note. David noticed. He called her dramatic, told her she was losing her mind. But he didn't sleep well either. I saw him start carrying his gun around the house, tucked in the back of his jeans like a cowboy. Good. Let paranoia chew through them both. But fear alone wasn't enough. I needed them to start making mistakes. So I pulled the first real thread. I'd been monitoring their bank accounts, their shell companies, their offshore transfers. That's when I spotted something ugly. David wasn't just moving my stolen assets. He was funneling money for people far more dangerous than him. Cartel money. Eastern European laundering schemes. Stuff that gets you killed if you sneeze in. The wrong direction. That was my opening. I tipped a small piece of info, anonymously, to one of those business associates. Just enough to make them suspicious of David. A single email, a single screenshot of a transfer that looked sloppy. They'd do the rest, and they did. 3 days later, David's car windows were smashed outside a steakhouse downtown. He stormed into the house, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, screaming at Emma that someone's watching us. I nearly laughed. Someone is David. Me, meanwhile, Emma was cracking in her own way. I sent her an unmarked envelope with just one photo inside, her at yoga class. Taken from across the street. On the back, I wrote, "Nice stretch." She broke down crying in her car, slamming her fists on the steering wheel. That's the thing about fear. It doesn't kill you. It rots you. It eats at your edges until you're nothing but panic wrapped in skin. And Emma was unraveling beautifully. But the best part, they started turning on each other. Emma accused David of being careless, of attracting enemies. David shouted back that Emma was slipping, drinking too much, talking too loud. He even slapped her one night. I watched it on the feed, her wine glass shattering against the floor. She didn't cry. She just stared at him with pure hate. And that's when I realized something delicious. Emma wasn't just betraying me with David. She was already planning to betray him. How did I know? Because I hacked her burner phone. The one she thought David didn't know about, and there he was. Another man. Wealthy. Dangerous. Someone who didn't just wear suits. He wore power like a second skin. Emma's texts to him were dripping with lust and promises. And hidden between the filth were plans. When David takes the fall, we'll have it all. So she wasn't just plotting with David. She was playing both sides, exactly the kind of double dealing that gets people killed. That I could have exposed her right then. But no, not yet. Better to let her keep weaving that web, tangling herself tighter and tighter. Instead, I planted seeds. I spoofed a message to David's phone from Emma's burner number. Just a single line, he's getting suspicious. I sent it while David was drunk. And when he saw it, I watched him stare at the screen for 10 full minutes before hurling the phone across the room. Emma had no idea why he suddenly stopped talking to her for 2 days. Why he left the house late at night without explanation. Why he started checking her phone when she was in the shower. The cracks weren't cracks anymore, they were fractures, and all I had to do was keep tapping the glass. People always asked me how I made it. How a kid from the wrong side of Philly grew into a man with a company worth millions. The truth. I survived hell before I ever built an empire. My father was a drunk who swung fists harder than belts. My mother left when I was 9. By 13, I was running packages for men with more guns than teeth. I learned fast. You keep your head low, your mouth shut, and your knife sharp. When I turned 18, I walked away. Swore I'd never crawl back into that gutter. Built myself from the ground up. College. Tech startups. Hustle stacked on hustle. I thought I'd buried that part of me. Thought I'd become respectable, but watching Emma and David smile over my death plan, that old part of me woke up. The street kid. The survivor. The predator. And he was hungry that I didn't just want to scare them anymore. I wanted to rip their world apart, brick by brick, until they had nothing left to cling to, and the first brick was trust. David had a meeting scheduled with a potential investor. I knew because I intercepted his emails. Big money. Private. Deal. The kind of meeting where men shake hands and quietly agree to bury regulators under cash.so. I showed up first, not as myself. Not as the ghost.as someone else. Marcus made me a flawless digital identity, fake LinkedIn, fake portfolio, even a website for a company that didn't exist. I walked into that meeting wearing a tailored suit, beard trimmed, hair slicked back. Different name. Different life. David didn't even recognize me, and why would he? He thought I was either dead or on the run. In his head, I didn't exist anymore. I shook hands with his investor. I smiled. And then I leaned close enough for only David to hear and whispered, "He's mine now." The blood drained from his face. He excused himself mid-meeting, stumbling into the bathroom like he'd seen a ghost. Because he had, that night, Emma got an email. From David's account. "We need to talk. Someone knows. Don't trust anyone. Meet me at the lake house. Midnight except." David never wrote it. I did. Emma showed up, wrapped in a trench coat, scanning the darkness, but David wasn't there. Just me. I didn't step out. Didn't reveal myself. Not yet. I just left a single photo on the porch. A picture of her and her secret lover. Taken in his car. On the back, I wrote, "You think David doesn't know?" I watched from the shadows as she clutched the photo like it was a live grenade. She looked around, panicked, then sped away, and the next morning, she screamed at David in their kitchen, "You set me up. You're trying to frame me." David had no idea what she was talking about. None. But now he did. Now he wondered why she was so defensive. Now he wondered if she was hiding something, and just like that, the first real crack between them wasn't paranoia anymore. It was Ward. As I sat in my motel room, watching the footage, sipping whiskey, I realized something. Emma and David weren't just betrayers. They were amateurs. Amateurs who thought they could play with wolves, but I wasn't just going to take their money or their freedom. I was going to take their sanity. Peace. Bye. Peace. If paranoia was the crack, exposure was the hammer, and I was ready to swing it. See, Emma and David thought their lies only lived in whispers and pillow talk. But money always leaves a trail. And the best part about rich people? They always think they're smarter than the system. All I had to do was give the system a little nudge. IT started with an anonymous tip to the IRS, just a simple envelope with neatly printed spreadsheets, doctored by me, of course, highlighting irregularities in Emma's accounts, offshore wires, unexplained deposits, luxury purchases with money that didn't officially exist. 2 weeks later, an audit letter landed in their mailbox. I didn't need to watch the cameras to know Emma's reaction. I could hear her scream. Through the live mic I planted in the hallway. She tore the letter in half, then in quarters, then finally collapsed into a chair, mumbling that this wasn't supposed to happen. David tried to calm her down, but he was sweating too, because he knew the IRS wasn't their only problem. That same night, I uploaded a compressed file to a secure drop site used by investigative journalists. Inside, a curated selection of David's creative accounting tricks, masked as a leak from a concerned employee. I didn't dump everything, just enough to get them curious, enough to put David's name in a reporter's mouth, and sure enough, 3 days later, a headline hit the local news: businessman under scrutiny for possible fraud. Nothing proven, just questions. But questions spread faster than answers. And David's phone started blowing up with calls from clients, investors, lawyers. He told Emma it was just noise. But I saw him pacing at 2 a.m., chain-smoking on the balcony, staring at his laptop like it was counting down to detonation. And just to keep the fire burning, I gave them one more gift. I rerouted a small wire transfer, just $50,000, so it bounced through an account flagged for cartel activity. David never noticed. But the feds did now. His name wasn't just in a reporter's notes. It was sitting in a federal database, red-flagged tick. Tark. Meanwhile, Emma spiraled. She started drinking in the mornings. She snapped at David for bringing the heat onto them. He snapped back, accusing her of running her mouth to the wrong people, and then, the moment I'd been waiting for, she picked up her burner phone and called her secret lover. I listened to every word. He's falling apart, she whispered. The pressure's eating him alive. This could be it. He takes the fall, and we are clear. The lover just chuckled, low and calm. The kind of man who doesn't get rattled. The kind of man who doesn't care if a body drops, as long as the money's clean. Emma thought she was playing David, but I was playing her. The next move was almost too easy. I sent Emma an anonymous text from a spoof number. He's already talking. Don't wait too long. That was all it took. Emma confronted David the same night, cornering him in the kitchen with tears in her eyes and venom in her voice. If you screw this up, I'll make sure you burn alone. David exploded, slamming his fist into the counter, shouting that she was losing it and that she should have trusted him. And in that moment, watching them tear into each other on my hidden cameras, I realized I didn't need to kill them. They were killing each other for me, but I wasn't finished because the trapdoor I'd built was only halfway open. The real fall. That was coming next. Emma thought she was clever. Thought she could juggle David, the business, and her secret lover without anyone ever noticing. But secrets rot fast when you pour fear on them. And I was soaking her world in gasoline. His name was Victor. At least, that's the name that showed up in her hidden phone records. Wealthy. Ruthless. The kind of man who didn't need to shout because everyone already knew what he was capable of. His family name carried weight in the financial underworld. Real estate, offshore money, private equity that smelled more like blood than business, and now he had Emma under his thumb. Their messages were disgusting. But buried between the passion and the lies were the real treasures. David is falling apart. Won't be long now. Let him take the fall. We'll walk away clean. When it's over, I want to disappear with you. She thought she was writing her escape plan. She didn't realize I was the one scripting the ending. So I introduced David to Victor, not directly, of course, but close enough. It was a Thursday night. David walked into his usual bar, the one where he drowned himself in whiskey whenever the pressure got too heavy. Only this time, Victor was already there. Coincidence? Not a chance. I made sure Victor's car was parked where David would see it. Made sure a bartender said his name just loud enough, and when David spotted this stranger, sharp suit, expensive watch, the kind of confidence that screamed Emma's type, something inside him cracked. David staggered toward him, drunk but dangerous. I know you, he growled. Victor didn't even bother to look up. You don't need to. That was all it took. David grabbed him by the collar. Victor didn't flinch, just smirked, the kind of smirk that said, I could erase you without lifting a finger. The bouncers stepped in before fists flew, but the damage was done. David's paranoia wasn't a theory anymore. It had a name, a face, and Emma. She had no idea what I'd just set in motion. That night, David went through Emma's phone while she showered. He found nothing, because I'd already wiped her texts except for 1.1 carefully planted message from Victor: he's finished. Just a matter of time. When David read it, his hands trembled. His face went white. He didn't just fear losing his business anymore. He feared Victor, and he feared Emma was helping him. Emma's spiral came faster than I expected. I mailed her another envelope. This one with a photo of her kissing Victor in his car. And across the bottom, in bold letters, David knows. She panicked, hid the photo in her purse, then burned it in the fireplace when David wasn't looking. But you can't burn suspicion, and suspicion spreads like wildfire. By the end of the week, their home was a war zone. Emma avoided his eyes. David avoided her touch. She drank to numb herself. He shouted to drown his fears. Doors slammed. Plates shattered. Nights ended in silence so suffocating it could choke you, and me. I watched from the shadows, every second sweeter than the last, but the best part. Victor wasn't just a lover. He wasn't just a rich man chasing thrills. He was connected. Dangerous. The kind of man whose name whispered in the same circles David had already entangled himself in. And when two predators circle the same prey, blood is inevitable. I wasn't going to stop it. I was going to guide it. Paranoia is hungry. It looks for proof everywhere, and I made sure David found it. Every whisper between Emma and Victor became a knife in his chest. Every late-night message I forged was gasoline poured on the fire. By the time David pieced it together, he wasn't thinking anymore. He was ready to explode. David wanted blood. It began with a setup that I sent David an anonymous text from. A burner phone. Victor is cutting you out. Tonight. At the docks. He took the bait, grabbed his gun, slammed the door, and drove into the night. But he wasn't walking into a coincidence. He was walking into my stage because Victor got his own tip. A little whisper that David had been skimming cartel money, bragging about taking care of Emma's new man. Victor couldn't let that slide. His pride wouldn't allow it. When David entered that cold, echoing warehouse by the water, Victor was already waiting with two of his men. The air was thick with salt and oil. The tension cut sharper than steel. You think you can steal from me? Victor's tone was calm, dangerous. David's jaw clenched, eyes burning. Steal? You're sleeping with my wife. Taking my business. I won't let that happen. The gun appeared in his hand. Victor's men stiffened, and right then, Emma burst through the door. She stormed into the warehouse, heels striking against concrete, coat flaring around her. Her face was pale, desperate. Stop. Both of you. But Emma wasn't there to save anyone. She was there to try and control the chaos. To protect her empire, she grabbed David's arm, whispering frantically, "Don't do this. We can still fix it. We can still walk away." David looked at her like she was poison. His voice cracked with rage. "Fix it? You lied to me. To him. To everyone." And then, he turned the gun on her for one frozen second. Silence filled the warehouse. Then Victor stepped forward, calm as ice. "Kill her, and you lose everything. Kill me, and you lose even more." David's hands trembled. Sweat rolled down his face. His world was collapsing, and he knew it. Emma sobbed beside him, but even her tears looked rehearsed. It was beautiful chaos. Exactly what I had built. But I wasn't finished. As their voices rose, I made my final move, an anonymous call to the police. Suspicious armed men at the docks. Within minutes, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights flashed through the fog. Victor cursed. His men scattered. Emma begged David to run. But he just froze, gun still shaking in his hand, staring at her like he finally saw the monster she really was. And me? I sat in my motel room, watching it all through the hidden camera's eye. Planted days before. Every word. Every betrayal. Recorded and ready to bury them both. When the police raided, Victor was gone. Emma was hysterical, claiming she was just there to stop a fight. And David, dragged away in cuffs, his empire reduced to ashes. The next morning's headlines were perfect. Businessman arrested after armed confrontation at the docks. Investors bailed. Lawyers quit. The empire crumbled, and Emma thought she was safe. That Victor would shield her, but Victor wasn't her savior. He was her executioner. Because while she struggled to keep her head above water, I was already there. One pulling her under. Prison strips a man down to nothing. David had always been the confident one. Smooth talker. Sharp suit. The kind of man who thought money made him untouchable. But behind bars? He wasn't a shark anymore. He was just another caged animal. His mugshot was plastered across every news channel. Fraud. Laundering. Armed confrontation at the docks. The empire we built, what he tried to steal, was burning to the ground in front of the world. David wasn't a king anymore. He was inmate #54721. Emma visited him once. Just once. She sat across the glass, sunglasses still on, even in the dull grey of the visitation room. David leaned into the phone, eyes wild, demanding, "What happened, Emma? Who's behind this?" Her silence was louder than shouting. She didn't come to help him. She came to see the ruins, and when she stood up to leave, she mouthed 2 words through the glass: "Burn alone." David slammed his fist against the partition, roaring, but she was already walking out. Her heels echoed down the hallway like nails in his coffin. Emma turned her attention to Victor. She thought he'd welcome her now. Protect her. Maybe even celebrate with her. David out of the way, the empire ready to claim, but Victor wasn't a protector. He was a predator. He poured her a drink, but didn't touch his own. Just stared, silent, until the silence itself felt dangerous. "You bring me problems," he said finally. "Your husband. Your choices. Too much noise. I don't like noise." Emma tried everything: tears, promises, soft words. But Victor wasn't moved. He didn't buy emotions. He bought silence, and Emma had become very loud. Meanwhile, I kept pulling the strings tighter. The recordings from the docks? Every word, every betrayal. I slipped them to journalists, prosecutors, regulators. Each drop carefully timed, each one painting Emma not as a widow, but as a co-conspirator. Her name started surfacing in whispers. Investigators asked questions. Accounts froze. Subpoenas landed on her doorstep. And Victor noticed. He wasn't stupid. He saw the storm forming around her. And men like Victor? They don't drown with their partners. They cut them loose. Emma realized too late. One night, she arrived at Victor's penthouse, desperate. Begging for money, for an escape, for protection. He didn't even let her sit down. "You're not my problem anymore," he said coldly. "You're a liability." She tried to argue, but 2 of his men stepped into the room. The message was clear. She wasn't a partner. She was dead weight, and that's when I made my move. I didn't want Victor to destroy her. That would be too quick. Too easy. No. I wanted Emma to feel everything. The collapse. The isolation. The moment she realized. Every plan, every ally, every lie had turned into a weapon against her. So I left her another gift. An unmarked envelope on her car. Inside, a USB drive. On it, David's furious rants. Victor's threats. Every betrayal I had captured in perfect clarity, and at the end, my voice, distorted but clear enough to chill her blood: "You plan my end. Instead, I'll watch yours." Emma broke that night. I saw it in the footage, her screaming into her bathroom mirror, smashing bottles, tearing her photos, burning clothes like the fire could erase the truth. But you can't erase what's already written, and I was writing her final chapter. For months, I'd been a ghost. A shadow at the edge of Emma's life. A whisper that kept her awake at night. But ghosts can't finish stories. Only men can, and it was time that I chose the place carefully. Our old lake house. The same one David once planned to use for my accident. I broke in at dawn, when the mist still clung to the water and silence wrapped the world like a shroud. I sat in the chair by the window, waiting. The sun climbed higher. And eventually, I heard her car. Emma stepped inside, heels clicking against the wooden floor, clutching her purse like it was a shield. She froze when she saw me sitting there, alive. Her face went white. "You," she whispered. I smiled. "Me." For a long moment, silence hung between us. She didn't move. I didn't either. Then she broke, voice shaking but sharp. "You're supposed to be gone. You were dead." I cut her off. That was the plan, wasn't it? David takes the company. You take the money. A neat little obituary for me. but I ruined your script. Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. Like a cornered animal, calculating did I lean forward. You know what the worst part was? Not the betrayal. Not the lies. It was the smile. That smile you gave him while planning my funeral. Her mask cracked. She started to cry, real tears this time, not the rehearsed ones for the cameras. I didn't have a choice, she stammered. David pushed me into it. Victor, I slammed my hand on the table. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Don't you dare blame them. You made your choice. You chose greed. You chose betrayal. You chose my death. She broke then. Dropped. Her purse sank to her knees, begging, please. I can fix this. We can start over. Nobody has to know. I laughed. Cold. Start over. Emma, the world already knows. David's in prison. Victor's circling like a shark. And you're alone. Everything you touched has turned to ash. I pulled a small recorder from my pocket. Pressed play, her own voice filled the room. Her whispers to Victor. Her plans with David. Her promise to let David burn alone. Her face collapsed as the words echoed around her. I stood up, walked past her toward the door. She clutched at my arm, desperate, nails digging into my sleeve. Please, don't leave me like this. I looked down at her, broken, shaking, the queen reduced to a beggar, and I whispered the last word she would ever hear from me. You wanted my end. This is yours. Then I pulled my arm free and walked out into the sunlight, leaving her to the silence, to the walls, to the empire of ruins she had built for herself. That was the moment the story ended, not with bullets, not with blood, but with justice. My justice. The day I walked out of that lake house, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, not happiness. Not yet, but peace. For months, I'd lived as a ghost, hunting the people who tried to bury me. And now, the war was over. Emma was broken. David was locked away. Victor had cut his ties and vanished into the shadows, and me? I was alive. I didn't go back to the company. I didn't want it anymore. That empire was poison from the moment David touched it, from the moment Emma smiled at him like I didn't exist. Instead, I took what was left, enough money hidden in places they never found, and I built something new. Smaller. Cleaner. Mine. I rented a quiet house near the coast. Learned to cook again. Started running in the mornings, breathing in the salt air, reminding myself that I'd survived, and for the first time in my life, I was building not for Emma, not for David, just for me. But there was one question that haunted me through it all. Who sent me that letter? The one that started everything. The answer came weeks later. A plain brown envelope slid under my door. Inside, just a single note, now you know. And beneath it, a name, Marcus, the same man who'd helped me erase myself, the hacker who owed me from years ago. He'd found the video long before I did. And he knew the only way to save me was to wake me up, to throw me into the fire and let me fight my way out. I owed him my life. And he never even asked for thanks. Sometimes, late at night, I think about it all. David, replaying every betrayal in a cold cell. Emma, drowning in the ruins of her lies. Victor, back in his empire of shadows, his name whispered like a curse. And me, sitting in the quiet, free. I thought revenge meant blood. But the truth? The sharpest revenge is survival. Watching them burn themselves down while I walk away untouched. I'm not the man I used to be. I'm stronger, smarter, and I'll never be blind again. They thought they'd written my ending, but I took the pen back, and I wrote something better to my own beginning. So now I'll ask you, do you think I did the right thing? What would you have done in my place? Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next dark and twisted story. Leave a like if this one kept you on the edge of your seat, and tell me in the comments what your ending would have been.